friends. Welcome to today's study circle session. Friends, as the income tax goes on extending the due date for filing the returns, a number of attendance for our programs will get reduced. So, that to add to that, no CP credit for today's program. Though many people are interested to attend, they are unable to attend because of the tax audit season. Still, in spite of all these things, many members, we hope that they will be watching this program live from their office. So today's topic is the recent amendments in the Companies Act and IBC provisions. To touch upon this subject, we have got a young, energetic and very active member, CA Punarvas is with us. I request CA Chittu to come forward and present a welcome flower to our speaker Punarvas. Thank you, CA Chittu. Friends, CA Punarvasu got qualified in the year 2012 and started his own practice. He has been consultant for various multinational companies and other firms, and more than that, he has been introduced to us as an eminent speaker on various forums, including the CP seminars of the Bengaluru branch, Mangalore branch, different other branches of ICI, and also he has been a faculty member for our branch. And his area of specialization is into Companies Act and advisory in various areas required for the corporates. Today we are lucky to have such a wonderful young personality with us to talk on this subject. Sir, on behalf of Bengaluru branch of SRC of ICI and also on behalf of all the members present and all the members who are going to view your program live, so we welcome you, sir.
Thank you so much.
So over to you, sir.
Thank you so much.
Before handing over the mic, members, the upcoming program, Kannada Rajyotsava, the third Kannada Rajyotsava program is scheduled on 2nd November in the same hall here at 4 o'clock, 3:30 to 4 o'clock it starts. It goes up to 8 o'clock. The program details are available. I request you to kindly come and enjoy this program. One of the very unique session there is the Ashtavadana. I don't know how many of you have heard about Ashtavadana. Have you heard Shatavadana, Ashtavadana are there? It's better to attend this program. This is a 8-dimension problem solving art and science, I could say. Without using computer, without using calculator, without using paper, pencil, nothing is there. Literally, 8 people will throw problems, 8 different problems, and one single person will be addressing all these problems, and all these 8 people will be disturbing that guy while he is solving the problem. In spite of all these disturbances, he will not get lost, he will do the job. And very importantly, your number crunching aspect also, they will be solving that problem, and it is worth attending, and it will definitely help us to learn how to stay focused in spite of all possible disturbances in our work. Definitely it will be helpful. Please make it a point to block your calendar and attend this session. Thank you very much. Over to you.
Yes. So it's actually nice to see so many people. I really did not expect so many, honestly, because first of all it's raining. Second, as sir told, it's the tax audit season in the last couple of days. And but I'm really elated and also thankful to the Bangalore branch and Shivram Bhatt for giving me this opportunity to come and discuss a few points about the Companies Act. There have been quite a few changes in the past couple of years. So I thought let's just do a 2-hour session on all the important changes that have come. So I want it to be an interactive session because I wish to learn from you as well. So it's a mutually synergistic, discussion session. That's what I want it to be. So I really hope that this will be an interactive session. So let's start without further ado. Yes. So basically, in 2013, there was a need for a new law to come into force, because of the increased responsibility thrust upon the board, and there was extra emphasis on investor protection, and we needed higher auditor accountability because of all the frauds that were happening, unfortunately, and a new agenda for CSR was the order of the day. So because of that, we had the 2013 Act 5 years ago, which came into force, which had around 470 sections. 230 sections of the old Act, that is 1956 Act, was completely removed. I'll be sharing all the screenshots with you. All the entire PDF will be shared with you at the end of the session. I'll just mail it to the institute, so they will circulate it among all the members, so that it will benefit all. And the 35 new definitions also were added, and CSR mandate section 135 was introduced for the first time ever in the history of the world. It's the first time ever in the history of the world that CSR has become a law. Earlier it was just optional for every company to do corporate social responsibility, but now it has become a mandate as per 135. 135 eventually has changed as well over the course of time, and in 2019 Amendment Act also it has changed. So let's just see all those things. But there was a very dangerous trend in the last couple of years where the auditors were invoking section 140 subsection 2, that is resignation, and they were resigning. They resigned, for example, Deloitte resigned from Manpasand Beverages, and PW quit as auditor of the Atlanta Limited, and so many such things, even Reliance Power. So, and when the bank divergence was reported, and it was not in the best interest of the stakeholders as such. So anyway, so there was a need for change as well, with the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code also coming in, and 2017 Act, Amendment Act, 2015 Amendment Act, and now recently 2019 Amendment Act as well. So let us just see. And before the 19 Amendment Act, this was the ordinance, Companies Amendment Ordinance. So on 25th July, very recently, 2019, the Companies Amendment Bill 2019 was presented in the Lok Sabha to replace the second ordinance, and on 31st July, it received the assent of the President, and accordingly, the second ordinance also stands repealed. So we also have to discuss what are the new changes that have come about in the Companies Amendment Act 2019. So the order of the day, or the agenda for today would be, we'll be discussing the amendments as per 2017 and the amendments as per 2019. The important ones, it's very difficult to cover everything in a couple of hours, and of course some important amendments in the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code of 2019. So let's just start off with the 2017 Amendment Act. Important changes. So there were, roughly around 92 amendments, small additions, deletions, around 3 deletions and 3 new sections were inserted. Of course, we cannot delve into all 92, but let's see what best we can do. The first section was section 3 capital A, was the new section which was inserted. This made members severally liable in certain cases. We have heard of the concept of lifting the corporate veil. So lifting the corporate veil to make the directors liable. So this is one section where I will lift the corporate veil to make the members liable. So the section says that if the number of members is reduced below the statutory minimum, that is 7 we know in case of public company and 2 in case of private company. So if the number reduces below that and the business is continued for 6 months or more, then the people who knew about it, those members who are cognizant of the change, they will be liable personally. So the reason obviously was punishment for the negligence. So this is one section, 3A, which is a new section inserted as per the Companies Amendment Act 2017. This section was not there in 2013, but interestingly this section was there in 1956 Act. So that got deleted in 2013, and again in 2017 they have reintroduced it. Yes, one more section, new section 446 capital A. So these are everywhere we saw punishment sections, punitive sections, but nowhere it spoke about what are the factors that the court should see before imposing penalty or before imposing fine, that is. So this is the factor that the court will consider, which will determine the level of punishment, size of the company, nature of the business, injury to public interest, nature of the default, and the repetitive nature of the default as well. All these things have to be considered. This is the second part. So these are the 2 new sections which are introduced. One is section 3A of the Companies Act and 446 capital A. 447 comes to the consequences of committing fraud, conviction. Moving on, one more section, 446 capital B. The penalties for one-person company and small company. So as we know, one-person company is a company in which has just one person as the member. And what is a small company? What would be a small company? Sorry? Based on the turnover. What would be the turnover? It's a private company or public? Small companies? Private company. And what would be the paid up capital? Yes, less than or equal to 50 lakh. And the turnover would be less than or equal to 2 crore. Yes. So this would be a small company. So these small companies, the penalties, obviously there's an absence of public interest, because of which the penalties were reduced. So here this section 446B says, in these sections, any contravention of annual return, any contravention of filing MGT 14 or not filing MGT 14, and not filing the annual financial statements, so the penalty will be half of the fine and imprisonment. So whatever is there in those sections, exactly half, up to half would be for these companies, that is one-person company and small company. So these are the three new sections, 3 capital A, 446 capital A and 446 capital B, introduced as per the Companies Amendment Act 2017. Moving on now. Yeah, 3 sections have been deleted though, because these are already there in the SEBI guidelines and SEBI Act and SEBI regulations. One is promoter stake changes, second one would be the forward dealing with KMP, third one would be the insider trading. All these are anyway covered in SEBI guidelines and the SEBI Act. Hence, to avoid duplicity, they have removed these 3 sections. So 3 sections have been introduced, 3 sections have been deleted, and of course there are around 90 plus small amendments. Some are major, some are small, so that is what we'll have to discuss, the important ones. Can we move on? Are we done? Yes, next. So, coming to the incorporation of the company, the reservation of name, earlier it was for 60 days, now it is for 20 days. Mind you, earlier it was 60 days from the date of filing the application, now it is 20 days from the date of, accepting all the applications. So, you have 20 days basically to finish the other incorporation procedures. And change of name as far as existing company is concerned, that is still at 60 days. And the registered office, now you need to file the INC 22. I mean, now it's not there anyway, but your erstwhile INC 22 had to be filed 30 days instead of 15 days about the situation of the office. So these are the 3 minor changes. So 20 days instead of 60. Then existing company still remains at 60, and of course registered office 30 days instead of 15. Those are the 3 things. Then of course, as per the Companies Incorporation Amendment Rules which came this year, 25th February 2019, so every company incorporated before 31st December 2017 had to file this active compliance, active company tagging identities and verification on or before 25th April 2019. And also we need to had to file a form that was obviously before 15 June 2019. This was to take the concept of sham companies head on. There were so many sham companies, so many fronts which were just there. So to curtail all that, 3 sections came. One was this, 2 other sections were 186 subsection 1, which speaks about layers of investment companies, and one more is 2 subsection 87, that is a subsidiary also, they spoke about layers. So here they restricted one holding company from having more than 2 layers. As well here, between one company and the second company, they said maximum 2 layers of investment companies can be there. So these are all the government crackdown on the sham companies. And one more additional thing would be the active company tagging identities, where we had to give the geolocation and all those things. So this was one more change which I am sure you already know all these things. Then of course the as far as the directors KYC was concerned, 12 capital A also was introduced recently, where they said DIR 3 KYC had to be filed for all the directors on or before 30th June of 2019 of the immediately next financial year. So every year we need to file this before 30th June. So this is 12 capital A as per the amendment rules, rule 12, sorry, not section. Yes. Then apart from that, small changes in the definitions. Any doubts? Am I going too fast? Yes, sir.
I just if I can interject here.
Please, sir.
That director KYC, there are a lot of directors who have been directors but are now exited from those companies.
Yes, sir.
Do they still have to go through this KYC, or I tried to see if we could surrender the DIN, but there was no provision.
That is still not possible, sir. Correct. Practically surrendering of DIN is not possible. So that's the reason why they have to file, though it doesn't make sense. Generally those who are actually directors have to file. But since the provision of surrender of DIN is not still active, so it appears that we have to file even for the old directors as well. Thank you for that point, sir. You can please interrupt me anytime. There is a mutual discussion. It will be great if you can give in your practical inputs as well, so that even I can learn. Anything else, sir? Yes. Anybody else? Great. Alright. So, few changes in the definitions. One change is to subsection 6 associate company. So earlier it was 20% of the total share capital, which was nothing but the equity share capital and convertible preference share capital. Now it has changed to 20% of the voting power. So now it is being given equity control as the base rather than the equity and convertible preference share. Same with the subsidiary company definition also. So it is more than half of, earlier it was total share capital, now they have reduced and they have made it voting power. So that's a minute change, but it has far-reaching impact on the consolidation and other things. And of course, holding company was defined as a company, but it did not speak about body corporate. So foreign company is not a company, but it's a body corporate. So can an Indian subsidiary have a foreign holding company was the question. That's why 2 subsection 46 also was amended, whereby they said for the purposes of this section, company includes a body corporate. So now we can have foreign companies controlling Indian companies and still they would be covered under the purview of the Companies Act 2013 along with all the amendments. So foreign parent companies had to be covered under the ambit. That's the reason why this section was slightly amended. So 2 subsection 46 also was amended. There are very small amendments having far-reaching consequences. Third one, yes, definition of net worth was slightly amended. Where earlier it was paid up capital plus reserves out of profits plus security premium less the usual calculation that we do. But now they also added to make it absolutely clear, debit or credit balance of the P&L account is also taken into account in the calculation of net worth. That went without saying, but anyways they wanted to make it clear. And as I already told you, 2 subsection 87 of the Companies Act, subsidiary company also, same thing. From total share capital it has now come to voting power to also talk about the equity control. So these are small changes in the definitions. And a new section has been substituted, the old private placement, section 42, brand new section, which now says that yes, maximum 50 or higher people instead of 200. In 2013 we could do private placement to 200 people at a time. Now it is just 50 or higher. So that higher has been prescribed now as 200. So as of now this old 2013 and it remains the same, but the minimum number given is 50 or higher. That higher as prescribed in the rules is now 200. Earlier it was just 200 in the 2013 Act. Return of allotment, money can't be utilized until the return is filed. The return should be filed in PAS 3, 4 and 5. Otherwise there will be a penal provision of 1000 per day, which can go up to 25 lakhs. And yes, the private placement, there is no right of renunciation, which was not there in the old Act. So you cannot renounce the right. You just either have to take it or no, but you cannot renounce it in favor of somebody else. Then amount rate, if you obviously renounce it in favor of somebody else, when the company has given you the offer, private placement, if you renounce it in favor of somebody else, then the amount raised or 2 crore, whichever is lesser, will be the penal provision. And plus you need to refund all the money and the interest. The company has to refund all the money. So there is no concept of renunciation, which was missing in the old law. Now you have made absolutely clear, you cannot renounce in favor of someone else. You can either accept it or reject the offer, but no renunciation on behalf of somebody else. This is regarding private placement. And one more very important addition, again, to tackle the concept of the sham companies would be section 90, that is SBO, significant beneficial ownership of shares. So on February 2018 they came out with the draft companies SBO rules, and on February 8, 2019, this year at the beginning, they issued the amended rules, and now it has become a law. So what is this SBO? Obviously there was multi-layered corporate entities which were there, which had grabbed eyeballs of various policy makers. So one change as discussed was 186.1, where they spoke about layers. One more was 2 subsection 87, which again spoke about layers. and now they also wanted to see who are the people behind the show. So the concept of shadow director, the shadow member, came into force. Interestingly, shadow director has not been defined in the Companies Act. If you see the definition of director, it says director means a director appointed as such. But a shadow director will not be appointed, he controls the show. But the shadow director concept is given in officer in default definition, which says that even any person on whose directions the company is accustomed to act will also be an officer in default. So to give more color to that particular meaning, they have also inserted the significant beneficial ownership. This speaks about ownership now. Are you controlling the show as a owner of the shares, but you are not the holder of shares as such? So that concept was what was there. One of the earlier practical examples would be the Rendezvous Sports Private Limited, which created this IPL team called Kochi Tuskers, and one of the directors were Dr. Sunanda Pushkar, who had been allotted almost around $7 million worth of shares. Then apparently the investigation is still on. There were around 300 to 400 sham companies between her and her husband, Dr. Shashi Tharoor. The only person who actually knew the truth was Dr. Sunanda Pushkar. So even there is now investigation on the murder/suicide, and let's not go into that. But those are the facts of the case. Two cases are going on. One against the investigation into the ownership of the company Rendezvous Sports Private Limited, and the other one relating to the mysterious death of Dr. Sunanda Pushkar. So basically they needed certain rules to strengthen the Companies Act and people from having this SPO. So now the onus is on the company as well as the significant beneficial owner to declare that he is the significant beneficial owner. Let's understand the structure a little bit because it's slightly complicated. Though this concept is already there in the other acts like Benami Transaction Prohibition Act, SEBI Foreign Portfolio Investment Regulations, it's there. But it's first time introduced in the Companies Act, which is very good. So let us see. A registered owner obviously is a person who is not the actual owner, only his name is entered. He is the holder of shares basically. But now I am talking about the beneficial owner. So beneficial owner they have defined, they have said who acting alone or together or through one or more persons or trust holds beneficial interest in shares. So his name may not be given, his name is not given actually, but he is the person controlling the show. He may be a director also, so then that brings into the concept of shadow director unless he is there in the company, and of course he has the other things. So let us understand who is a beneficial owner of shares. So he could hold shares through a resident in a company, Y Limited is my example. He could hold shares through a non-resident as well, or he could be a resident who could be a non-resident also, or he could hold shares through a trust. And as per the rules, the shareholding, the direct plus indirect shareholding is taken as 10%. Mind you, it's not indirect shareholding, it's direct plus indirect. So if he has 9.9% direct holding and let's say 1% indirect holding, still is called as a significant beneficial owner. But if he has 12% direct holding, obviously is not called as a significant beneficial owner because he is already the owner of the shares. So it's direct plus indirect holding, and a declaration has to be made, otherwise liability will directly be under section 447, which is dangerous penal provision. Yes. On the other hand, let's understand the three checks that we as auditors have to do. First is obviously the SPO should be a natural person. Second, such person should hold, as discussed, at least 10% of the shares, voting rights, dividend control, whatever the case may be. It is indirect holding along with direct holding. And last but not least, most importantly, there has to be some element of indirect holding. Percentage is not given, but direct plus indirect put together should be at least 10%. That's the rule. So as far as SPO is concerned, what do you mean by indirect holding? Again, the rules and section 90, right, with the rules give a set of scenarios. So let us see that. So SPO, let's say Mr. A, I am now talking about a reporting company, let's say. Now I am checking whether any SPO is there in this reporting company. So if a person, Mr. A, holds more than half of the shares of any body corporate, Body corporate can be private company, public company, statutory corporation, foreign company, limited liability partnership, nationalized bank or financial institution. And that body corporate holds at least 10%. Still Mr. A will be called as a significant beneficial owner, and this will be treated as indirect holding. I repeat, SBO, that is Mr. A, holding more than half of shares of a body corporate, and that body corporate is holding minimum 10% in the reporting company. So Mr. A will be called as a SBO. One more example or one more scenario which the rules have thrown up would be Mr. A again holds more than 50% of the shares in a body corporate, and body corporate is a partner of the partnership firm, and the partnership firm has invested 10% of this in this reporting company. Still Mr. A is called as a significant beneficial owner because it's deemed to be indirect holding. Third one, Mr. A is actually the partner of the partnership firm. It's not routed through the body corporate. He's only directly the partner of the partnership firm. So he's invested 10% in the reporting company. Obviously, he'll be called as a significant beneficial owner. Then, Mr. A is a karta of a Hindu undivided family. Mind you, not a co-parsoner, but a karta. That's what the rules specify. Karta of a Hindu undivided family. And the Hindu undivided family in turn holds 10% of this reporting company, then yes, Mr. A will be deemed to be holding indirectly 10%. One more point, Mr. A is a trustee in a normal trust, and the trust is holding again 10%. So if we break down the rules, this is what the entire structure would be. One is body corporate, one is partnership firm, then we have HUF and trust. So the auditor and the company actually has its work cut out to understand who would be the beneficial owners. So the onus is on both the SBO as well as the company to declare. Otherwise, penal provisions are quite stringent. So let us see what is the test. First of all, as discussed, there should be a natural person. Second, individual should have beneficial interest not less than 10%. Individual holding share indirectly or together with direct holding is what I need to see. Share capital includes everything, that is your convertible debentures, everything. Then individual should hold majority stake in member body corporate, which we have already seen. This is the majority stake, more than 3%, that we have already seen. This point has been discussed. Anyway, so what are the disclosures required? This is more important. So every SPO shall file a declaration BN1 in which he holds SBO on the date of commencement of these rules within 90 days from the commencement of these rules, that is 13 June 2019 it should be. Then every SBO shall file any change in the SBO also within 30 days, and if you become an SBO also, from whenever you become within 30 days you need to file BN1. So from the SBO point of view, the form number is BN1, that is what they have to file. On the other hand, compliance by company. Every company shall maintain a register under 90 subsection 1, and a return in BN2 has to be filed within 30 days of receipt of BN1. So from the company's point of view, it is BN2. However, the register shall be maintained in the format prescribed under BN3. So 3 declarations, BN1, BN2 and BN3. BN1 should be done by the SBO, BN2 by the company, and BN3 is the register to be maintained. And as far as auditor is concerned, compliance for professional. So yes, we need to check whether BN1 is received by the company. If it is not received, whether company has sent notice to such a person. If notice is sent, whether reply is not received, or whether the company has taken action and also reported to the tribunal. So all these things the auditor has to check. So these are the major changes in section 90. New section, significant beneficial ownership. This is a addition to section 89 which spoke about beneficial ownership. So this is the new section, section 90. Yes sir.
So here it said that the Ben 2 has to be filed by the reporting company only
Yes.
if Ben 1 is filed.
Yes sir.
But then Ben 1 is filed by the SBO.
Yes.
The person who's
They will intimate the company, yes.
If they don't file, then there is no obligation to file.
Correct, yes. that's why now the next thing is company has to intimate to the tribunal that they haven't received Ben 1 despite sending notices to the concerned people, SPO.
Okay, and so let's say there is a subsidiary company in India, holding company, which is holding 100%, which is abroad somewhere.
Okay.
And that is in turn being held by some other company. We keep traversing till we find a natural person.
Yes, sir. Correct.
But there might be a situation where, that company, which is, just above 1 or 2 levels, is being held by maybe 12 companies, each holding 8% or 9%.
Okay.
Nobody's holding more than 10%.
Correct.
Then what do you do in that situation?
Sir, is it abroad or there? Because abroad you can have more any layers, that's not a problem. In India you can only have 2 as per the new rules that came after 2017.
Yeah.
So it depends on, your question is outside India or in India?
Well, this situation can happen in India also, where,
Right.
layer 1 might be holding 100%. Whereas layer 2, there might be 15 companies holding 8% each or 9% each.
Correct. So the thing is, the company has to ensure that they have sent notices. The onus is on the company to send notices. And once it is done, the rules and the act doesn't say that the company is liable. So they have to send notices to whatever companies and trace the final SBO and send notice to him. Now it is his duty to send B and 1. If it is not sent, the company is the company's duty is fulfilled if it has sent the notices, and then the same has to be reported to the NCLT. That's all the act says. Section 90 and 89 and the rules say that's all. Because it's wrong on the law part to actually penalize the company when they have actually sent the notices.
I was under the impression that the company still has to file bed 2 saying that there is nothing to report. There is, nobody.
Sir, but then when they know that there is an SBO, then that would be wrong. When they know that there is an SBO and they are awaiting notices, then it would be wrong. Yes.
I would modify a little bit.
Tell me, sir. Tell me.
Where the company concludes that there is no SPO,
Yeah.
should we file Ben 2 saying that there is nobody?
Yes. If it concludes, yes. But later, if it is found that actually there was an SBO, then it would be penalty will be levied on the company.
But is it mandatory to file nil form or?
Yes, as per the rules, yes, a nil form has to be filed. There was an FAQ also raised to the NCA. They said that yes, a nil form has to be filed. This was a major discussion a few months back. So whether nil form has to be filed, and the answer was they said yes, it is better to file.
In certain listed companies, shareholding is so much scattered that really there is no beneficial.
Correct. So you need to file a nil form. So the duty of the companies are twofold. One is file a nil form if they can conclusively say that there is no SBO. But if they figure out that there is an SBO, as sir told, of many layers, then you have to send a notice to the concerned person. If they have not received Ben 1, then the burden of, they can just say that we have already sent and we have not received anything. Because there was one rule which said that the company would be liable. That rule was struck down, sir. Because the companies lodged a complaint saying that we have actually sent notice, and if they are not sending Ben 1, why are you holding us liable? So that rule was 3-4 months ago, it was struck down. So as of now, your nil form, when you can conclusively say that there is no SBO. Second point obviously is sending a notice to the actual SBO and seeking Ben 1 from it.
How do you find if there's multiple layers? I mean, after a point, you can't even know.
Yes, sir, that's what. So that in that case, that's what you can just file a nil form. That's it. Because after a point, you cannot go.
It might still be inaccurate because there might actually be an SBO, but
Correct.
I'm not able to trace them.
Correct. That's what, sir. In the nil form, you just have to say that we could not find or there is no SBO, because there is only so much that a company can do, because there are so many layers, and you may end up not finding the SBO. So the penal provision was there where you could not trace, then the company would be held liable, but that was struck down because they said there are practically it's very easy for you to just impose penalty. It's practically not feasible to find the SBO. So they said if you can conclusively say that it's not possible, then you can declare saying that there is no SBO. So but all the relevant proof has to be retained so that tomorrow if any problem arises, then they can say that they at least tried their best searching for the SBO. So this is one challenge for the chartered accountants in the company as well as for the auditors alike.
And the previous time you said that just by virtue of being a trustee or by virtue of being a partner.
This one, sir?
Yeah. There's no majority share in the partnership, or as a trustee he doesn't of course own anything there, but just by virtue of being a trustee.
Yes. That's what the rules say. Just a trustee of a trust. Those are the words. They do not say substantial holding or anything. Substantial holding is only here. This more than 50% they have defined here, that's it. Everywhere else is just a karta here, not a co-partner. Here is just a partner. Here the body corporate is a partner and here the trust. But this holding always should be obviously minimum 10%. Can we go ahead? Is there anything else to add? Great. Okay, next. Yeah, that's what it says. They shall check whether there is any owner, whether there is a holding company, subsidiary, wholly owned subsidiary and all these things. And yes, they will also follow the same for their subsidiary companies and other things. Then as far as AGM and EGM are concerned, two small changes in section 96 and 100. So if I am a wholly owned subsidiary of a foreign company, AGM should be held in India, whereas EGM can be held outside India. So this is one change. Earlier all the meetings should have been held only in India, but now there is one small change. For a foreign holding company having a wholly owned subsidiary located in India, AGM of course has to be held in India, whereas EGM could be, it doesn't say shall, it says may. EGM may be held outside India as well. Only EGM, mind you, and only mind you, it is a wholly owned subsidiary. Not even a 99% subsidiary or a 70% subsidiary, no, only wholly owned subsidiary. On the other hand, if you are a normal subsidiary, as discussed, both AGM and EGM have to be held only in India. That is absolutely clear. Only wholly owned subsidiary can be held, only EGM can be held outside India. On the other hand, AGM of listed companies should be held in the registered office or the place where registered office is situated within the city limits. On the other hand, for AGM of unlisted company, one more proviso has been added. It can be held anywhere in India, but a resolution required is unanimous, without any vote being cast against the thing. So you need to take a unanimous resolution of all the shareholders, whoever is voting, everybody should say yes to this. People who are abstaining obviously will not be counted. So basically there should not be even one vote against this particular resolution of holding the AGM anywhere other than the registered office. So it is only for AGM of unlisted company can be held anywhere in India, but with a unanimous resolution. So these are small changes in 96 and 100. Can we proceed? One more, section 101, notice of the meeting and shorter notice. 101 said that for every meeting, whether AGM or EGM, I had to give a 21 clear day, notice of 21 clear days. So 2 days, if it's sent by post, the postal transit of 48 hours should be excluded, and the date of the meeting and of course the date of sending the notice must be excluded. So technically it would be 25 days, so to speak, the company should have sent. However, shorter notice, there was this thing where 95% of the members should agree. 95% of the members should agree to have a shorter notice. Mind you, it is not 95% voting right, it is 95% of members. This is for the AGM. EGM, there was slightly different provision. On the other hand, along with the notice, obviously we will send for the AGM, we will send the financial statements, notes to accounts, audit report, board report. How many days before that should be circulated? That is given under 137. That again was 21 clear days in the old law. So it was 21 clear days, 21 clear days. This was what was there before. However, now there was no concept of shorter notice there. So it appeared that you could send the notice, if 95% of members agreed, you could send the notice less than 21 days. But you should send all the documents at least 21 days before the meeting. There was slight confusion in this. So these two have been synchronized now. There was no uniformity, now it's uniform. So what they say now is, shorter notice for AGM, they say 95% of members. This I'm talking about 101. And shorter notice of EGM, they say majority of members plus 95% of value. Mind you, AGM it is 95% of members, EGM it is 95% of value plus majority of members. This was there, but they have also altered 137. 137, all the financial statements, notes to accounts, etc. can also be sent less than 21 days if majority of members and 95% of value agree. Mind you, this is for both AGM and EGM. So shorter notice is also, shorter notice and shorter notice for sending the documents are also covered here. So one is 21 clear days, it can be less than that with 95% of members, and majority of members and 95% value. On the other hand, section 137, I repeat, I can send the documents also less than 21 days along with the notice, that is, so uniformity is created with majority of members and 95% of value. So this is the small change in 101 and 137.
But have they not specified the number of days? Less than 21 could be even 1 day.
It could be, yes sir, it could be, the rules haven't specified anything, but generally if you see the interpretation of statutes, they say minimum 7 days. So it could be anywhere between 7 and 21, it could be 10 days, 12 days, no problem. That's the reason why they should take, just a meeting before that, they should take the approval from 95% of value, saying that they can send it with, within any number of days. Generally the articles prescribe 7 days, but it could be 2 days, 3 days also. But again, in the interpretation of statutes along with various judicial precedents, they say 7 days, because the same thing is also there for board meetings, so they say at least 7 days you need to give.
So that's an interesting point. But put it in the article.
Yes sir.
If the put that rules article, then I don't need to go and get approved every time I call a general meeting.
No sir, because 101, 137, again, for 101 for private companies it is subject to articles, for public company you need to follow the section. So articles will have no value there.
Yeah, for private company, private company it's possible.
Possible, yes. Because 101, 102, 103, all these things are subject to the articles for private company. Public company, of course, you need to follow the section. So all this will not even apply for private company if they mention something else in the articles. 101 at least. Yeah, interesting point is section 135 CSR. Lot of changes have come, minute changes again. So let me just take an example where 2 years there was a loss and 1 year there was a profit. So total is around 8 crores loss. So is CSR applicable? Is CSR applicable? 2% of, should I do something? That was the interesting case here. When should I see the net profit? Companies Act 2013 said no CSR since I should take past 3 years profit. So it said actually any of the 3 years or any year actually. Initially they said any year. So to check the net profit it said any year, and then it said average of 3 years you should do. Now 2017 it says in the immediately preceding financial year. So they have changed the wordings to immediately preceding financial year. So despite having losses in 11, 12, 12, 13 my example, since 13, 14 there is a profit, CSR would be applicable. But what if the company, now it says 3 years average. Of course average profits remains the same. I'm talking about the applicability of CSR. Average profits remain the same. 8 crores is a loss. So obviously I cannot, CSR mandate is not there. But what I'm saying is, what if the company is just 1 year old? Is CSR applicable? In 2013 it said it should be average 3 years profit. What if the company is just, let's say 2 years old and it has made profit at both years? Should I do CSR? So this again, Companies Amendment Act has cleared all the doubts here. They have inserted a line saying that where the company has not completed the period of 3 financial years since its incorporation during such immediately preceding financial years. So CSR is applicable to all companies including new ones. If the criteria is, that those 3 criteria, net worth 500 crore, turnover, all those criteria is satisfied, profit and turnover criteria, turnover 1000 crore and net profit 5 crore, then of course CSR will be applicable. You need not wait for 3 years, need not take the average of 3 years is what they say. You can take the average of 2. That's very clear. Immediately preceding financial years. It is the new insertion in the section 135. 2 dangerous provisions which were not there in the amendment ordinance, mind you, but interestingly found its way in the Companies Amendment Act, which has already been passed from retrospective effect from the November itself, 2018, are these 2. Earlier there was no provision of any penalty for unspent amount. So you either spend it, or if you don't spend, explain. That's it. There was a residuary section called section 450 where the MCA had sent some notices to the companies under 450, that is 10,000 rupees one shot penalty and 1,000 rupees per day. But people said the main section itself doesn't talk about penalty. 135 doesn't talk about penalty at all. So to again put the issues to rest, they have inserted these two things. Unspent amount to be transferred to a fund which is set up under Schedule 7. There are many funds mentioned in Schedule 7, your Prime Minister's National Relief Fund and so many other funds like that, within a period of 6 months from the expiry of the financial year. So now unspent amount, if I am supposed to spend 2 crore, I have only spent 1.5 crore, 50 lakhs has to be transferred to that fund as per Schedule number 7. On the other hand, if there is any ongoing project for which you have set aside some amount, so they say unspent amount relating to ongoing project shall be transferred to, just like our unpaid dividend account, there is one more account here called unspent CSR account. Within 30 days from the end of the financial year, and it has to be used within 3 years. This is set aside for ongoing project. If it is not used for 3 years, then again point 1 will come. Within 6 months you have to transfer to a separate fund. So under the garb of ongoing project, you can't set aside some amount and forget about it. That also is covered now. And also when you are supposed to spend 2%, you have to spend 2% now. It has become a mandate. It has become a mandate now. It is mandatory that you have to spend 2% of the average net profits. So this is the first time ever in the history of the Companies Act of any country that there is a mandate 135. It is mandatory now for us to follow section 135. And if they do not do so, the company will be liable. 50,000 can go up to 25 lakh, and the OID, that is officer in default, will be imprisoned up to 3 years, or 50,000 to 5 lakh, or both. So this is the first time ever imprisonment section also has been added under section 135. So company liability 50,000 to 25 lakh, that depends on the amount that is unspent and not taken into account. Whereas the officer in default, that is your director, shadow director, everybody, and the officer concerned who is looking after the CSR department will be liable imprisonment up to 3 years. The directors can still escape if they say that a responsible person has been appointed to look after the CSR, maybe a CFO or somebody. But yes, imprisonment is there up to 3 years, or there will be a fine of 50,000 to 5 lakh rupees, or both. So this was not there in the ordinance, mind you. This came in the Companies Amendment Act 2019. So there was a lot of hue and cry against this section, but still it stood its ground. It has already been passed. These are the two major changes. And as far as our institute guidance notes regarding CSR, what if I spend more? Can I take it forward to the next year? There is nothing like that. And it also CSR rules also clearly say that any surplus from any CSR activity should not be taken as a income. But how would we treat it? So the guidance note says that income is anything that is derived other than equity participation. So this has to be considered as an income. But how do I set it off? They said please create a reserve. Please create a CSR reserve and please spend it the next year over and above the 2%. So this is the guidance note issued by ICI in respect of CSR. Though the rules say do not treat it as income, but I have to treat it as income for my accounting purposes, and immediately create a liability called CSR reserve, which has to be spent the next year over and above that 2%. Over and above the 2%. So this is these are some of the important changes in section 135. Any doubts in this? Any points that you might want to add? Okay. Then of course few other changes as far as appointment of auditors are concerned. Section 139, the concept of ratification has been removed, because earlier you could appoint an auditor for 5 years, but every year you had to ratify him. But if you don't ratify, it was as good as removal. But interestingly, in section 140 subsection 1, every removal entailed CG approval. So on one hand, I am not ratifying by not passing an ordinary resolution, and on the other hand, I am actually circumventing the CG approval, and of course special resolution also was needed here. So it was creating confusion, so the government decided to remove the concept of ratification. So now an auditor, subsequent auditor from the first AGM, he should be appointed for 5 years. There is an institute FAQ also where they have clarified that you cannot appoint an auditor for 1 year, 2 years. It shall be done for 5 years. And if you want to remove an auditor before that, I have to follow the provisions of 140 subsection 1. That would be central government approval and special resolution. So this again clarified by the CA Institute also as regards the appointment of auditor. And as far as removal and resignation is concerned, the minimum fine, especially for resignation, if you do not file a form called ADT 3 when you resign, the auditor had to pay 50,000 rupees earlier. So it so happened that there were many auditors who resigned from firms which, from companies which paid them 10,000, 20,000 rupees, but the fine for non-filing was 50,000. So they raised a query, they raised some concern. That's the reason why now they have told 50,000 or lower of audit fee of 50,000. So it makes sense now. So that has been streamlined. Again, small change concerning auditors. And as far as eligibility norms, that one that hardly is not so great for us to discuss. It's fine. It is just added directly or indirectly and explain what is that directly or indirectly in that other sections. That's fine. Then section 147, penalty for contravention. The auditor was earlier liable to pay damages to any person concerned. It was not defined clearly who is this any person concerned. That's the reason why they have changed it to, thankfully, to only members and creditors of the company. And he is liable for misleading statements in the audit report. Earlier, any person would have been any Tom, Dick and Harry who is no way related to the company. Thankfully, now they have told only members and creditors. So they have clearly mentioned, they have removed any person and they have replaced any person with only members and creditors. And earlier, all the partners of the audit firm were liable. Now for section 447, which is a criminal liability, only the guilty partner who has been convicted, or any partner who aided or abetted the crime, only those people will be liable. The firm is absolved of the responsibility of criminal liability, not civil liability, criminal liability. So that is a major change again in section 147. Old section 147 under 2013 was very, very stringent, whereas they have streamlined it and made it more logical now in 2017 and 2019 Amendment Act. These are a couple of changes. And of course, there is a concept of resident director. Resident director again was, when I lift the corporate with, there should be at least one director who I can, make liable. Earlier it was 182 days in the previous calendar year. Again it was observed. It had got nothing to do with the current financial year. So thankfully now they have said there has to be at least one resident director who has stayed in India for at least 182 days in the current financial year. Not the previous year, but in the current financial year. As far as independent director is concerned, for appointment of independent director earlier, that concerned director had to pay a deposit of 1 lakh rupees, which was observed because independent directors are obviously nominated by the Nomination and Remuneration Committee. There was no point in them giving a deposit and then getting appointed and taking refund of the deposit. So rightfully that 1 lakh rupees deposit has been dispensed with. This is an amendment to section 160, which speaks about appointment of director. And of course, they have now defined what is the pecuniary relationship. What do you mean by pecuniary relationship? So an independent director should not have any pecuniary relationship in the company. And what is pecuniary relationship? They have said earnings from the company should be more than, if it is more than 10% of his total income, other than the remuneration, then it will be called as pecuniary relationship. So any independent director should not have pecuniary relationship as such. Now one major change that has come is in the disqualification of directors. Now we have two disqualifications. One is 164 subsection 1 and 164 subsection 2. 164 subsection 1 were your normal points about insolvency, moral turpitude, court order and call money not paid. But 164.2 was the real deal, which spoke about two clauses A and B. A spoke about not filing of financial statements and annual returns for 3 years, whereas B spoke about non-repayment of dividend, deposit and debenture and interest thereon, and if the failure continues for 1 year or more. The big question was, if a director has been disqualified under 164(1) and 164(2), it was a well-established fact that he will not be allowed to be reappointed. That was for sure. But the big question was, should he vacate his office immediately under 167? So if my tenure is still 4 years and I have been, let's say, convicted under 164(2), so can I continue, or is it just that I am ineligible to come back after 4 years, was a big question. So a major change that came on 7th May 2018 last year was an amendment to section 167, subsection 1, that is. So where they said very simply, 167 subsection 1, clause A was one thing and the proviso spoke about something. Proviso to 167(1) spoke about A, spoke about something else, and clause A itself spoke about something else. So basically I could be a director of, I am obviously a director of defaulting company and non-defaulting company, both. So they say under 167(1)(a), if you are disqualified under 164(1), that is your other normal points, they say that you will have to vacate your office in the defaulting company, need not vacate your office in the non-defaulting company. This was the general understanding before also, but this proviso was inserted where they said if a director is disqualified under 164(2), that is non-filing of financial statements and annual returns and non-payment of dividend, deposits, debentures. Now interestingly they have told that you can continue in the defaulting company, but in the non-defaulting company you have to vacate immediately. This is a big change. So, and if you are an auditor of a non-defaulting company, so we need to report the same, because for auditors responsibility we have 143(3)(g), which speaks about directors disqualification under 164. So if you are the auditor or we are the auditors of a non-defaulting company and the director is the director here and in one more company which has not filed annual accounts and annual returns, director will be disqualified in our company as well. That has to be reported. So this is a major change, very small amendment but far-reaching consequence again. Came very recently, last year, 7th May 2018, with effect from all the appointments done after that. So this was it. But interesting to know, in 164(2)(b), that is, it spoke about dividend, deposit and debentures where the failure continues for 1 year or more. So the onus was not that you actually committed default. The onus was, why didn't you rectify the default within 1 year? So the disqualification under 164(2)(b) is not for not paying, but it is for not rectifying your default within 1 year. So there was a question raised, what would happen to a director who was never a director here, but who just became a director 1 month before the completion of 1 year. So would the disqualification attract to him as well, and should he vacate his office? So again, one more small change has come as per the Companies Amendment Act, where they have told any director appointed will get 6 months. For 6 months disqualification will not take effect. For 6 months disqualification will not take effect. So that person can rectify the defect or he can just resign. He'll have 6 months time. That is one more small change that has come in section 164. And as far as appeal is concerned, can I prefer an appeal and stay my disqualification? 164 says no such thing. It says the disqualification shall continue. On the other hand, can I stay my vacation? 167 only for moral turpitude point and the court order, I can bring about a stay order for my vacation of office, but not for disqualification. These are the minor changes, but important changes in 164 and 167. So this especially where I can continue in the defaulting company And however, as to vacate in a non-defaulting company will have far-reaching consequences in our audits as well. Anything to be discussed? Sir?
How do we rectify the non-filing of?
Sir, unfortunately, any belated filing if you do, it will not cure the it will not cure the disqualification. It will only cure the defect. So the DIN will be deactivated.
That is for 5 years.
Yes, for 5 years. It has already happened. There are two cases. In fact, when they actually did it recently, like 2 years ago, they did it. They disqualified 1,76,000 companies and some 1 lakh odd directors. So they went to the court saying that, okay, I understand I haven't filed the returns, but those returns were pertain to pre-2013. So they got protection under that because the section etc. came in 2014. So that was for pre-2011, 12, 12, 13, all those areas. So only two High Court cases have supported the directors. One is in Gujarat and one Karnataka High Court. Recent judgment, few months ago it came, where they have told that yes, those disqualifications are invalid. But now, from now onwards, 14, 15, 15, 16, 16, 17. So from later onwards, it will be the DIN will be deactivated. So no remedy, no remedy under Companies Act.
5 years.
Yes, 5 years it will be disqualified. No remedy, DIN will be completely deactivated. There is one more important change in 164. That is linked to 165. As we know, in 165, one director can be a director in maximum how many companies? 20. But as per the analysis of MCA, there were many companies, 22, 23, 25 like that, the directors were directors. That's why they inserted section 164 saying that anybody who has contravened section 165 will be disqualified. This is a new section under 2000. Your recent ordinance or 2019 Amendment Act. This is a brand new provision. So now if I have more than 20, the DIN will be deactivated. So by default he will have to vacate office in all those companies. 25, 26, 27, whatever number of companies. Again one more challenge now. So the government has already now taken up very stringently as to what are these companies, because 2-3 notices are also sent, public notices requesting the directors to resign from those companies and maintain 20, but no heed was paid. That's the reason why they have inserted now as brand new 2019. This is with retrospective effect from 2nd November 2018. So anybody after 2nd November 2018, if you find during your course of your audit that is a director of more than 20 companies, then at least you should raise that thing in the audit report, because before the deactivation happens. So the MCA in one of the recent seminars they were telling that they already started the process of identifying those directors who have directorship in more than 20 companies. But once the DIN will be deactivated, obviously they will have to vacate their office in all the companies. This is one more change. And there is no remedy, no appeal saving clause for any of these things in the Companies Act. That has been removed, sir. Earlier it was there. Now only these two things that I told you, moral turpitude and that court order. Only against vacation there can be a stay granted, but not anything else. The Karnataka High Court and Gujarat High Court spoke about a different issue, about the constitutional validity rather of that disqualification, because that pertained to pre-2013 points. But now 13, 14, 14, 15, 15, 16, after that nothing, you will be disqualified and you will have to vacate your office as well. So these are the couple of other points that we need to think of. Sir?
Is there a bigger point when the disqualification exists? Like there is no notice sent by the ROC or anybody saying?
No sir, no notice sent.
So who's going to take the call?
Sir, the company has to take the call and the auditor.
Okay.
Because 143(3)(g) clearly tells that the auditor has to declare that the directors have not been disqualified under 164.
Yeah, but the auditor comes in much later, right? They're not.
Yeah, the company, sir. First onus is on the company. The company secretary, the legal team has to check that for sure. Because they have to file the annual account, annual returns anyway. So they have to check that.
So the date of filing the annual return is 30 days from the date?
Yes sir, I'll just write that down so that it will be easier for everyone. So we have financial statements and we have annual returns. So let us take after 14, 15, 16, 16, 17. So let us assume that not filed, or even if one is filed, it's a problem. Basically you have to file both. Even if one is filed, it's a problem. So yeah, financial statement should be filed within How many days?
30 days.
30 days, yes sir. And annual return 60 days from the AGM. Yes sir. Now tell me. Yes, now you can.
So now, the date of filing the AOC 4 is 30 days of the general meeting.
Yes.
Usually the general meeting last date is 30th September.
Yes.
So by 30th October, if he is not filed,
Yes.
then, is that the date is automatically?
Yes, correct.
So all decisions made after that date, what
Will be invalid, sir. Will be void. All decisions, whatever, if all the directors are concerned there, then it will be void ab initio. That is for sure.
And then, a reading of that section said that if you have not filed, then except for that defaulting company, you are disqualified from all of the companies. I don't know the exact section.
Sir, this 164 says that the director is disqualified in this company and other company for 5 years. So,
In the company of default.
yes. Disqualification is different from vacation, sir. Vacation is will you vacate your office now. Disqualification is only at the point of reappointment. So let us say I still have 3 years to go, tenure. So the question is, will I continue now? Or the act clearly says he will be disqualified for 5 years in this company and some other company. So let's say I already have 3 years. So 5 years will be counted from today itself. So 3 years is already excluded. So I will be disqualified for 2 more years. That's how we have to look at it. But the second question was, should I vacate my office today? That I have to read 167. So 167 says, if any of these 164 2 points are covered, then you have to vacate in the other companies, but you can continue in the defaulting company.
So two situations. One is if they are first directors in the company, there is no concept of retiring by rotation, so they'll keep continuing.
Right.
In that situation, what happens? Secondly, if there are 2 companies where they are directors and both the companies are in default,
Yes.
so default in this company, will that make him automatically disqualified?
Yes. In all defaulting companies, you will have to vacate in 164(1). But here you will continue, sir. You will continue in both the companies in your example. You will continue in both the companies, but you will vacate in all the companies in which has not committed any default. That is to protect the shareholders from further default. Whereas these companies anyway they have defaulted, but the problem is if all the directors have committed default, then all have to vacate the office. That's the reason why they inserted the clause saying that at least the defaulting company you continue. Because then again it's a dangerous scenario because the company, central government will not know, promoters will become the directors, and if they themselves are the promoters, then the company has to intimate to the central government and they will appoint directors. That is as per 167(3). So that's too cumbersome. That's why they have now inserted the clause saying that if you have triggered 164(2), then vacation will happen in the non-defaulting companies. Defaulting companies you continue, you try to set things right, but once they deactivate the DIN, that is how they actually do it, then anyway you will not be eligible in any company anyway. So that is what happened in those 2 cases also. They deactivated almost 1 lakh plus directors. So then the only thing they had was the constitutional validity of their entire disqualification. But now nothing can be done. That was old. Now nothing can be done. After 2014, once disqualified, there is no way that, especially in the Companies Act that is, there is no way where you can take back your disqualification. Even belated filing. For example, if I did not file this and this I did a belated filing, it will only cure the defect but not the disqualification.
We could have a situation where, let's say he's only a director in one company which is defaulted. Now, because he's defaulted in that company, he can continue. He
Yes.
can continue to make whatever decisions he's making.
Yes.
But the moment he files the return and then, becomes normal again, then does this then automatically become okay, or because of his past history?
No sir, I mean that's what, if you file belatedly, you are still disqualified. Unless the DIN becomes active again, which again will happen only if you finish those 5 years. So the thing is very simple, once I deactivate the DIN, it will be deactivated for 5 years. That's what happened to all those directors, but because of these Karnataka High Court and Gujarat High Court cases, they have told now it's no problem. That is for old cases, but these cases, now it will actually, the practical years will come from now. Now we'll have to see, once they deactivate it, that's it. So,
Yeah, what I'm trying to understand is there could be a situation where the company that was in default regularized,
correct.
but the DIN of the director might show deactivated.
It will be
But it
deactivated.
would still be a regular proper director.
Yeah, only in the defaulting company he can be.
Yeah, no, now it's no longer defaulting because they have regularized, right?
Yes sir, but that's what I am saying. It can regularize the defect, but it will not regularize the disqualification. If you are disqualified for 5 years, you cannot be.
Yeah, no, I'm saying from a due diligence perspective, when we deal with such companies,
Yes.
how should we treat that disqualification of the director?
That has to be reported under 143(3)(g), sir, saying that the company has regularized the defect and has filed belatedly. That is set right. But since the DIN is deactivated, he is no longer, a director in the other companies. But in this company, by virtue of 167, he can still continue. That has to be reported by the auditor.
This will be applicable for independent director also.
Yes, sir.
So he doesn't have any say on operations of the company.
Correct.
Company defaults the filing.
Correct.
How does he protect himself?
The thing is, as per independent director norms, you have to obviously, all the director provisions also will apply to this guy. So, to the independent director as well. So, the rule is very clear in 167, it applies to both independent and all types of directors. So, if he has to ensure that the company has filed the annual accounts, and because it's the equal responsibility on both the directors as well as the normal directors, executive directors as well as the independent directors to file the returns. That's why 164(2) is specific. It only talks about the annual returns and annual accounts, and of course the dividend, deposits and debenture, which is again connected to stakeholders, which the independent directors have to see. So they will be failing in their duty if they don't check that, and they can't pass the burden on to the normal directors. So it will equally apply to the independent directors also. The only directors it will not apply would be for the nominee directors, because that will be specifically excluded in the loan agreement. So this section will not apply to nominee directors because they are no way concerned about filing. They only are there to see whether the financial institution who they are representing, whether they have prepaid the loan properly or not. So this is by clear cut there in 161 subsection 3, where it clearly says subject to the agreement and the articles. So they clearly will insert a clause saying that I will not be liable under 164(2). So they are protected, barring that all other directors will go through there is no exemption as such. Yes, alright. So these are a couple of interesting cases. So as discussed again, all the board meetings shall be invalid, financials will be void, that's the problem. So that is one thing that we need to see as far as disqualification is concerned. And as far as meetings and audit committee, earlier there were certain things like approval of annual financial statements, approving the board report, approving prospectus, audit committee meetings. All these things could not have been done by video conferencing. But in 2017 they have amended saying that these things also can be done via video conferencing provided physical quorum is present. So if physically quorum is present, 3 people, 5 people, 10 people, whatever it is, then even these things can be done via video conferencing mechanism. There is one more change that has come, small change. Interesting again is your loans to directors, related party transactions and all that. The section 185 has completely been revamped. Brand new section 185 has come from 7th May 2018. Just to give a gist of it, 185 completely prohibits loans to directors, whereas 186 allows loan guarantee security to a person. Now the person could be a director also actually. So that was a confusion, if I cannot follow 185, can I comply under 186 and still give loan to directors? The answer was a no, because the specific section will override the general section. So this person should be read as person other than director, other than 185 basically. So 185 is prohibited, but it was total prohibition in 2013. In 2017 that came recently, that is the amendment 7th May 2018 that is. So there they have relaxed the provisions a bit, whereby you could still give loan to directors, to some sort of directors. We will see that. And of course we have a normal generic section 179(3)(f), which says that you can possibly delegate the entire thing to the managing director also. So what should I apply? I cannot harmonize because it's very difficult. So the test for the auditor would be obviously to first check whether you come under 185(1). So basically 185, I'll just come to this slide once again. So I'll just explain 185 breakup. So it applies to both private and public company, mind you. What all is covered, except there is a separate exemption for private company, small exemption, but apart from that it applies. What all is covered is loan, guarantee, security and book debt. 4 things are covered. And to whom? To directors, and of course they have defined interested parties in this. They have defined interested parties. So the thing is very simple. They have split the old 185 list into three. They have made it 185-1, where now they have said prohibited. So earlier there was an entire list where this entire list, loan given to the entire list was prohibited. Now they are split into three parts: 185-1, 185-2, 185-3. This is the new change, complete revamping of the section. 185-1 says loan guarantee security is prohibited, completely prohibited. The list, small part of this old list. This is your directors, relatives and all those things. Then 185-2 they say I will restrict it. When I say restricted, what restriction is there? They say special resolution should be passed and you should give a proper explanatory statement as to why you are giving the loan. So this is the second part. Third part, on the other hand, they have now freely allowed, where they have told 185 will not at all apply. So the old 185 prohibited the entire list. Now they have divided the list into three parts. 185-1, it is prohibited still. 185-2, this relates to companies, that is companies in which the director is a member, and private company in which is a director, those kind of bodies corporate. Here they say, okay, you can give, this company can give loan to that company, no problem, it will be like an intercorporate loan. But special resolution, explanatory statement, and most importantly, it should be only used for the principal business activities, nothing else. So if you are giving it for the principal business activities, good, otherwise no. Third one, on the other hand, 185.3, where this section only doesn't apply, which means freely allowed. This is, for example, loan given to managing director. Company can give loan to managing director if it is already part of the conditions of service, or the shareholders approve a scheme by passing a special resolution. So this is one example. Though he is a director, I can still give. So a company can give loan to a managing director provided it is part of the conditions of service. So that is freely allowed, not at all covered under 185. So coming back, how do I check all this? So basically I need to check 185.1 first and understand whether the loan in question in the present practical case that we are doing in the audit, whether it is prohibited. If not prohibited, whether it is restricted. If not restricted, whether it is allowed under 185.3. Mind you, all the people covered under 185.3 automatically will fall under this person definition under 186. So for all these 185.3 cases, I also need to comply with 186. And if in 186.11 there are certain cases where 186 also will not apply. Like for example, loan given by infrastructure companies, loan given by banking companies. Such companies blindly have to follow 179.3. So 186 is very stringent because it requires a board meeting resolution, special resolution, and also unanimous board meeting resolution. Even if one person says no on the board for this loan, then it will not go through. It's very, very stringent. But under 186.11, there is a list of companies which need not follow 186. For such companies, I have the residuary section 179.3f. Or normal companies investing in the right shares of some other companies are also excluded from 186. Since right shares is a benefit, everything is covered under 179.3f. So this is the sequence that we need to go. So as discussed already, this company 185, this is the breakup. 186 breakup on the other hand, quickly to discuss, we have private company, public company both covered. What all is covered here? There we had loan guarantee security and book debt. Here we have loan guarantee security and investment. LGSI, loan guarantee security and investment. So again, to whom? To body corporate or to a person? An investment in the securities of a body corporate only. So mind you, if a company is investing in mutual fund units which is run by a trust, mutual fund would be a security for sure, but trust is not a body corporate. So that is outside the purview of 186. Similarly, if I am investing in government bonds issued by central government, government bonds are definitely securities, but central government is not a body corporate. Again, outside the purview of 186. So 186 very clearly says investment in the securities of a body corporate. On the other hand, this person, does it include employees also, was a question raised. What about employees, loan given by company to its employees covered or not. So specifically they are excluded now under the amendment. They have told employee not covered. So if I am giving a loan to an employee, I need not follow section 186. For all these things my residuary section will come 179 3F loan. And if I want to invest in the mutual fund run by a trust, I have 179 3E that speaks about investment. And as discussed, you need a board meeting resolution and in some cases special resolution, but in all cases of board meeting resolution, very very stringent, must be unanimous. And it is so stringent that, let us say there are 10 directors, 7 come for the meeting, 6 say yes, 1 abstains from the meeting, abstains from voting, that is, he comes for the meeting but abstains from voting. Is unanimous resolution passed? General rule of unanimous resolution is without any vote being cast against it. So in my example, out of 7, 6 said yes, 1 did not say no. So technically it should be, but the wordings of 186 are very very clear. It says all the directors who have come should say yes. That's how stringent it is. So abstinence is also as good as no. So if I abstain from voting, it is as good as no. That's how stringent this section is. It only covers these things: loan, guarantee, security and investment in the securities of a body corporate. That is 186. Moving on to the disclosures, of course linked to that is CARO, the new clauses of CARO, again came in 2016, CARO clause 3, 4 and 13. So clause 4 speaks about that the auditor has to ensure that provisions of section 185 and 186 have been completely complied with by the company. That's fine. And lastly 188, this is my related party transaction. What type of companies are covered? Private and public. What all is covered? Contract, arrangement and a specified transaction. So the transaction is given in 188 1A to around G, H. They have given the transactions that would entail almost everything: contract of purchase of goods, sale of goods, services, materials, then underwriting commission, office or place of, everything is covered almost anyway. So that is the thing. But interesting to note, to whom? Related party. Related party is specifically defined in 2 subsection 76. This is similar to the related party list in 185 with certain additions and deletions. So 2 important lists that we need to remember as auditors: one is 185 list and one is 2 subsection 76 list. So here it's very simple in 188. First of all, you should be a related party. You should be entering into specified transaction. But the crux of 188, which actually dilutes the entire section, is 188 will only apply if the transactions are beyond arm's length price. So this line dilutes the entire section actually, because earlier it was, earlier it was all transactions that will be reported. Now it says only if it is beyond ALP. This loses the plot because anyway under audit committee section 177 I have to report all the related party transaction, whether it is beyond ALP or not beyond ALP anyway. So this 188 becomes a small subset of my section of section 177 compliance. So I don't see the point of this, unfortunately, because of that one line where it says beyond arm's length price, they have loses the entire thing. So as I told you, beyond ALP is what they have told. And again, reporting, as far as reporting is concerned, we have clause 3 and clause 13, which again speaks about section 177, that is audit committee, and 188 related party transactions. So these are the things that I have told you. As far as penalty is concerned, there have been few changes. There is a comprehensive penal provision chart for 185, that is loans to directors, 186, that is for intercorporate loans and advances, 184, disclosure of directors' interest, and 188, which is related party transactions. So they say company, director or other person is penalized. Here company or every officer in default is penalized. In 184, director is penalized. 188 also, director is penalized. And if you see, company is penalized 5 lakh to 25 lakh, here 25,000 to 5 lakh. But interesting thing is, contract is not affected in either 185 or 186. But if I contravene 184 and 188, it will affect my contract also. So here it says it is voidable at the option of the shareholders or voidable at the option of the board. Both the cases. Here, if I do not disclose my interest, the contract can get affected. Here, if I do not, if I contravene rather related party transaction without proper disclosure, the contract can get affected. So the doctrine of indoor management, which protects the outsiders, will not be given for 184 and 188. On the other hand, there is no proportional reduction even if you make a mistake. Here, mistake will cost us dearly. There is no reduction in the imprisonment or, for that matter, in the fine or penalty. That's the thing. And there is no, it's not a compounding you cannot take unless it is 185, 184, 188. 186 is a non-compoundable offence because they use the word and. So you cannot go for compounding and avoid imprisonment under 186. And interestingly, 184 non-compliance will get you vacation of office under 167, 1C and 1D. So if you enter into any transaction with any person or any entity in whom you are interested as per 184 and do not disclose the same, the moment you are caught, the director will have to vacate his office immediately in the defaulting company. So this is one dangerous point, 167, 1C. So if I am entering into a contract with, my company is entering into a contract with one more company in which I am a director and I do not disclose the same, then I will have to vacate my office in the defaulting company. Here I did not disclose. Obviously there also I did not disclose. So both the companies I will have to vacate my office. This is a dangerous point. On the other hand, if I do not report any related party transaction, do not disclose, both disqualification and vacation will get attracted. Not only will I be ineligible to be reappointed, but also I should vacate the office immediately. So these are the dangerous consequences of 184 and 188. One more thing, will 184 apply to a private company? Should directors, are they exempt from disclosing or should they disclose? They should disclose. But one relaxation is, in the other cases, director cannot vote. For a public company, they cannot vote. But in a private company, one small relaxation, director can vote. He can disclose the interest and can vote on the particular resolution. That is one interesting point. Then a couple of other small points, and then we'll move on to the Companies Amendment Act 2019, and then quickly finish IBC also in whatever time left. Appointment of MD, age 70 plus years. Earlier it was possible only with central government approval. Now they have told it is possible, even if special resolution has to be passed. If it is not passed also, they say you can take central government approval. Earlier they said more than 70 years of age we needed a special resolution, or otherwise it was not possible. Now they have also said with the central government approval you can take, no problem. Then managerial remuneration. Interesting to know that we know that managerial remuneration under 197 was fixed at 11%. With managing director or whole-time director could go from 5% to 10% depending on the facts of the case, whereas the ordinary director's remuneration would be 1% to 3%. Now, is it possible for us to go from 5 to 10 up to 11%? Like one director will get 1%, one more will get 5. Like that, can I go up to 11%? Yes. The amendment says with special resolution I can go up to 11%. But the biggest amendment is this: can I pay remuneration more than 11%? Earlier in 1956 it was not at all possible. In 2013 they said it is possible with ordinary resolution and central government approval. In the 2019 Amendment Act, they have removed central government approval. Now simple ordinary resolution, I can go beyond 11%. So shareholders can agree to pay more than 11% to the directors, to the managing director, whole-time director and all the directors put together. However, it is observed that internal limit extension is special resolution, but the entire limit extension is ordinary resolution. This is one more change. Any doubts? Anything? Yes, and also very important to know that in Schedule 5, we had the concept of CG approval for excess remuneration taken. Very interesting, this also has been removed. So even in loss-making companies, any remuneration can be paid with just shareholders' approval. With shareholders' approval, any remuneration can be paid. Earlier, there was this table A with certain limits. If I had to go more than double, I had to take CG approval. Now everything is covered under shareholders. If I want to pay within the limit, ordinary, more than the limit, special, that's it. So the concept of CG approval has completely been removed both in the concept of profit-making company as well as loss-making company. These sections will apply only to public companies. Private company can give any remuneration they want. That's not a problem. Yes. Now, let's see which are important. Yeah. Coming to the Companies Amendment Act 2019. Again, it was the ordinance and now it has become a law. The purpose was very simple, simplification of compliances. Here almost 30 to 35 sections they have changed from fine to penalty. What is the difference? Fine has been made penalty. What is the difference? Any difference if I say fine into penalty? So wherever 30-35 sections, wherever they have used the word fine, now they have said penalty. The consequence is fine is always imposed by NCLT, whereas penalty is imposed by the internal authority, that is the ROC. So now 30-35 clauses, penal provision, penalty has to be paid to the ROC, MCA. So it's a revenue generating mechanism now. All important sections they have made it penalty, which generally contravene. So those provisions now, the payment should go to the ROC. So many sections, that's the main change honestly in the ordinance. They have changed fine to penalty. So what are they changed? For example, yes, these sections. Provisions where fine or imprisonment has been converted to penalty. This is a comprehensive list, or rather not a comprehensive list, but an important list of few sections out of those 35 that I told you, where they have said, for example, failure to give notice for alteration of capital, non-filing of annual returns, which generally the companies don't file. Earlier we had to go to the court mechanism, now it is just penalty to be paid to the ROC. So this is a major change in the entire scheme of things as regards the Companies Amendment Act 2019. Yeah, so new way of raising government revenue is that. And some major changes, there is a concept of commencement of business which was actually deleted. Earlier we had two things, one is certificate of incorporation, certificate of commencement of business, which was again repealed in 2013 but reintroduced now in the form of a declaration. It is actually against the concept of ease of doing business. That is the reason why CCOB was removed, but now we have CCOB again. But it's not a certificate but a declaration. So a declaration has to be filed with the directors once they commence business. Then fine, as I told you, has been converted. For charges, interestingly, they have reduced the timeline. I'll just explain that. And one more thing is the adjudication of penalty. How will I adjudicate? Adjudicating authority is ROC. So step number 1, any contravention, show cause notice will be given by them. 15 to 45 days is the timeline according to them they can set. Then of course principles of natural justice. If you do not attend the hearing, an ex parte hearing will be made, an ex parte order will also be granted. Then enquiry will be made by a adjudicating authority, that is ROC, hearing, and finally order. and it can be appealed only to the regional director. This is the entire scheme under the new act, where the fine has been converted to penalty. So this is again, I told you, declaration and all those things. Like everything, fine has been converted to penalty. For example, penalty for issue of shares at a discount. We cannot issue shares at a discount, the only exception being sweat equity shares. But in case you go ahead and issue which is against sweat equity shares, then now they say penalty, which may extend to an amount equal to the amount raised through the issue of shares at discount or 5 lakh, whichever is less. Plus you will also get 12% per annum interest. Person who has bought will get 12% per annum interest as well. Like that. And even this, for example, non-filing annual return, 50,000 rupees. Let's move into the charges section, which is slightly interesting. As I told you, charge creation, etc. they are modified. Now, this is a modification. All charges created before 2nd November. It's very confusing, so that's why I made this chart to make it easy. I repeat, all charges created before 2nd November 2018, which was the date of insertion of the Companies Amendment Act 2019. Any charge created, I had to file CHG 1 within 30 days. If I don't file it, then ROC may allow extension with additional fee. We knew 300 days was the time. This was there before. After the ordinance, what has happened? This is not allowed anymore. 300 days has been removed and replaced by this. Mind you, this is for charges created before 2nd November 2018. I repeat, charges created before 2nd November 2018. 300 days concept has been removed, and that earlier there was a section 87 which spoke about condonation of delay for non-filing the charge. That also has been removed. So what is the change as per the ordinance is this: within 6 months from 2nd November 2018, registration of charge shall be done, which is before 1st May 2019 you should have registered the charge. As simple as no 300 days and all that. Before 1st May 2019 it had to be done by payment of an additional fee. That's what they say. What is that fee? That also they have defined. So I repeat, this 300 days is no longer there. Condonation of delay no longer there. This is by 2019 Amendment Act, which speaks about two things: charges created before 2nd November, charges created after 2nd November. So for charges created before 2nd November, whatever it is, you should have done it within 1st May. And what is the fee? They have given in the rules that 2 times of normal fee. Normal fee also has been prescribed, so 2 times, 4 times, like that, based on the delay. On the other hand, for charges created after 2nd November, for charges created after 2nd November, 30 days was there. If you don't do within 30 days, ROC may allow additional fee. Now they have added this: within 60 days of the failure. I repeat, once you create a charge, within 30 days CHG1 has to be filed. If CHG1 is not filed, 60 days time I have to seek permission of the ROC. They may allow on payment of additional fee. This is the act after 2nd November 2018. Now, even if I don't do that within 60 days, what do I do? There is no concept of condonation of delay. The concept of charge creation has been completely removed in section 87. That 300 days, all that was there before, removed. Now what they say, registrar may allow a one-time further 60 days extension, but with the payment of something called ad valorem fee. Ad valorem fee we need to pay. So these are for the charges created after 2nd November 2018. So charge created within 30 days not done, within 60 days that also not done means one time extension up to 60 days will be granted, further 60 days that is, but only with the payment of ad valorem fee. This first 60-day extension additional fee, which I already showed you 2 times, 4 times, all that. Then additional now is ad valorem fee, that is 60 plus 60. ad valorem fee. And what is that? This again 4 times 2 times done. Ad valorem fee is for small company, it is 0.025% of the amount secured by the charge. This is for 30 to 90 days. First of all, 3 times of the normal fee plus 0.025% of the amount secured by charge. For other companies, it is double. 6 times and 0.05% of the amount secured by the charge. This is for extension. So there is onus is on the company now to create the charge, and auditor has to check this in the light of the new provisions of Companies Amendment Act 2019, which has been with retrospective effect from 2nd November. So this is regarding the charges. Yeah, that's it. So since we have around 10 minutes, maybe I can just touch upon the IBC provisions. This I'll send you the details. As regards the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code, some important amendments have come, very important amendments. The first amendment is, as we all know, gist of IBC is that we can, a financial creditor or an operational creditor or a corporate debtor can file. Corporate debtor is the company itself, can file against the corporate debtor insolvency petition if the due is 1 lakh rupees. Financial creditor is a person to whom a financial debt is owed. Operational creditor is either an employee or who has given goods or services or government. So if government dues is more than 1 lakh, government can go as an operational creditor. If I have provided goods services for which payment due is more than 1 lakh, I can go for IBC against the company. And if I am obviously an employee and they have not paid me more than 1 lakh, I can go for this. Now, then corporate debtor itself can go for liquidation. Now, very interesting to know, in couple of cases, one is the Colonel Vinod Avasthi and AMR, and interestingly in JP Infratech, what happened was they took money from almost around 25,000 home buyers. They took money worth 32,000 crore. They created a skeletal structure and they routed all the money to the parent company, JP Group, and the JP Group started constructing other buildings and started selling. So basically all the advance received from these small home buyers, it was called as, ironically called as the dream home. It still remained a dream, unfortunately. It was called Dream Home Foundation. And when they went and asked their money back, JP Infrastructure said, no, there's no money. There's already a structure construct, that's it. Now, they wanted to sue JP Infrastructure under IBC. So JP said, okay, you go ahead and do it. What will you be called as? Are you an operational creditor to the home buyers? No, because they are neither employees. They have not provided goods. They have not given services. Second, are you a financial creditor? Have you given a loan to the company? No. Are you the government? No. Are you the corporate debtor? Are you JP? No. Hence, home buyers were left out of the ambit, unfortunately, of IBC. That was rectified by this amendment. Today, home buyers are treated as financial creditors. They have added the line real estate allottees. Real estate allottees under RERA. So real estate allottees under RERA are now considered as financial creditors. So these trigger cases where there was versus AMR and of course the JP Infratech, where the Supreme Court had to intervene and they lifted the corporate veil and made the entire JP Group liable. And JP Group now ironically went for IBC. So they are under the IBC process going on for them. This is the first important change. Second one was very interesting, Kirusa versus Mobilox. This is the first ever case which went up to the Supreme Court level. Kirusa versus Mobilox, where for example if let's say I am Airtel comes to ICI Limited or HX Limited and they say I have given you services this month, your payable, your entire group company I am giving you internet services, your due is 1,20,000 rupees, you have not paid. Now can the company say I will not pay? Because the company says we have been lodging a complaint after complaint this full month, your internet services are very bad, we will not pay. Now the question is, Airtel has already initiated the insolvency process against X Limited, but X Limited is saying that we will not pay you because you have already raised a dispute. Your services are bad and we have already raised a dispute, etc. Now the big question was the wordings here. It said existence of dispute, which was there in this case, but one dangerous word it said, and its pendency. Pendency was defined as pendency in a court of law. Now this was a big question. Now X Limited, to protect itself, unfortunately, not only had to prove that there was a dispute, which was there in this case, the services were bad, but also they had to prove that that case was pending in the court of law. Now this was absurd and completely illogical and impractical. So does it mean if the moment I have to pay somebody 1 lakh and I know that the services are bad, I should put a case against them? That's how it looked like, to protect myself against IBC. So X Limited had to do that. Unfortunate, very, the word and was misinterpreted by NCLT and NCLAT. Supreme Court said this and should be read as or. So they said it's either existence of dispute or it is pending. When I am saying it's pending, it obviously there is existence of dispute anyway. So this Supreme Court decision was made into a law in the Insolvency Bankruptcy Amendment Act, where they said that it should be read as or only. So this is a very, very important case, Kirusa versus Mobilox, Supreme Court decision under IBC. This is the second most important thing in IBC, but this I'll send it to you. These are all the case details. Since there's a lack of time, I can't explain all, but anyway, I'll give you a gist of everything. Third one, if the corporate debtor itself is going into IBC, this was earlier given in winding up provisions of our Companies Act. There we required special resolution, but under IBC, special resolution was not there. Now this was not uniform. So bring about uniformity, special resolution has also been inserted in this. So if the corporate debtor itself is going into IBC, they also need to seek the approval of the shareholders by passing a special resolution. That's the third important change in the IBC Act. IBC, that is code, sorry. Next, moratorium. Now this was a very interesting case. This was LML Motors versus SBI. So what had happened was, we know the Chetak bike earlier, LML, Loeb Motor Limited. So this LML had taken loan from SBI to the tune of some 75 crore. So the guarantors were the directors of LML, Director 1, Director 2 were the guarantors for this loan. Now interestingly, the moment SBI asked money and LML defaulted, SBI asked these two directors to pay up, obviously. But under IBC there is a rule, if LML went into IBC, and the moment they go into IBC, they are protected by a shield called moratorium, where all the cases will freeze for 180 days. So the directors shrewdly what they did to escape this wrath of SBI, they went into IBC and they sought protection under moratorium 180 days. They said you cannot sue me for 180 days because LML has gone into insolvency. Now this was again morally and ethically bad. And unfortunately the directors won the case. To overturn the judgment, amendment was done with retrospective effect. They said moratorium will not apply to the guarantors at all. So the banks can go ahead, even though the moratorium period is going on, they can go ahead and sue the guarantors. So this was a very good amendment to overthrow the judgment of LML Motors versus SBI. So it will not be applicable to a surety in a contract of guarantee. So those two directors will not escape under moratorium or will not seek any delay also, the same thing. Then COC for all decisions earlier, the percentage was 75% of value. Now they have changed it to, for important decisions 66%, for routine decisions 51%. So this is all important decisions. This is for routine decisions. This is one more change. Then couple of changes. Yeah, this is a very interesting case. Ruchi Soya. Ruchi Soya Limited was proposed to be taken over by Adani Wilmar Group. When they are almost, the resolution plan was almost approved, Patanjali also was one more, competitor who wanted to take over the Ruchi Soya Group. Patanjali came out with one very interesting observation, the newly inserted section 29 capital A. Under 29 capital A, if you are related party or a relative or you are connected person, to anybody who has brought about the downfall of Ruchi Soya in this example, then you cannot be the buyer of, you cannot buy that particular company. You cannot be a creditor or you cannot be a resolution applicant who is going to take over the company. Now very interestingly, Adani Wilmar Group head was married to Vikram Kothari's daughter. Now Vikram Kothari was the famed person who was the Rotomac Group chairman, convicted of fraud. Now because of this one point, because he is related to a person who has committed fraud and has brought about the downfall of his own company and other companies, the court intervened and said Adani Wilmar Group is completely disqualified, and because of which Patanjali got the deal. So this was because of this one section 29 capital A. Again, as per the amendment, this was introduced. So the intention of this amendment was to prevent persons who had already contributed to the failure of the debtor from getting back their assets at significant discounts. So they said not possible. Then this rule, however, will not apply to MSME, because think about it, if I put up a MSME for under IBC and want somebody else to come, nobody would come. So if I am a promoter but who is a non-defaulter, can I buy back my own company? Yes. So a small exemption for MSME, whereby a promoter who is a non-defaulter or an erstwhile promoter can come back and buy his own company under IBC rules. That is one more small amendment. One more interesting thing was, if binding up proceedings are already going on, will IBC proceedings also go on? That was a doubt. So the rules, the Act clearly now says that you need to obtain the leave of the High Court. So take permission of the High Court and then start the IBC proceedings, no problem. And one more thing, sir, 2 minutes can I take? Yeah. So one more thing, two important changes. Yes. Application of Limitation Act. So Limitation Act says any debtor-creditor relationship maximum time period is 3 years. After 3 years, the relationship, though it is a valid contract, it becomes unenforceable. Now, under the normal Companies Act provisions, I am the creditor, you are the debtor. I have not bothered to take my money. Let's say you owe me 2 lakh rupees. It's been more than 5 years. I have not even given a notice. I have not bothered. Now you go for IBC. Now the thing is, can I stand in the queue and claim money? That was one more interesting question. Will Limitation Act apply to IBC? What you did not do under Companies Act, can you now claim your money under IBC? Again the Act said no. So once you are a part of a time bar debt, the time bar debt will always remain, even if you go through IBC. Last part is a brand new change, the landmark decision Essar Steel, which is going on since almost 2 years. Essar Steel, we can dissect the case probably in some other seminar, but just the gist of it now, in Essar Steel case, 2 components came, whereby if let's say I am Essar Steel and I go for IBC, can I withdraw that tomorrow? So 12 capital A was inserted, where they say withdrawal will happen only if 90% of the creditors agree. So that was one provision. It was a very interesting case, it will take more than an hour to explain, but the gist of it was, if I apply for IBC, can I withdraw? So 12 capital A was introduced, they said 90% of them should agree. And section 53 of IBC speaks about distribution of assets in liquidation. But it does not talk about your CIRP, that is Corporate Insolvency Resolution Process. How will I distribute the assets between financial creditor and operational creditor if I haven't gone for liquidation? So in this case, Essar Steel, unfortunately, they said they equated financial creditor and operational creditor, they equated in the same footing, and they gave almost 92% of the dues of operational creditor, where they only gave around 10% of the dues to financial creditors. So financial creditor went to the Supreme Court to appease the financial creditor. The act was amended by the government. They said nothing doing, both cannot be equated on the same footing because they have given a loan, they have taken a high risk and given a loan. So they said whatever the sequence or waterfall mechanism that you have to follow in liquidation, same waterfall mechanism will also apply to CIRP, where financial creditor will be paid first and only then operational creditor will be paid. So they overturned the NCLAT and Supreme Court's judgment held in Essar Steel case, and they have now told that the same provisions will apply to the CIRP as well. So these are all the important changes in IBC. So I again thank you for a very patient hearing, and I thank the Bangalore branch of SIRC of ICI and Shivaram Kochar for affording me this opportunity to come and discuss whatever I knew about the new changes, and I really thank you for a fruitful session. Thank you so much, sir. Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Friends, wonderful session today, no? Please give me a big round of applause. When it comes to the IBC, I thought let me share one or two points of my experience, last more than about 6 months I've been a part of the resolution team to revive one of the bankrupt company which is under the IBC, and it is referred to the NCLAT today, sitting there for last 3 months. Every day is going to be a very challenging day, and managing that is not that easy at all. It requires a lot of mental preparedness to handle the pressure, tension, and also a lot of patience to handle the unsatisfied creditors when especially the cases get dragged, because when it comes to the NCLAT, they don't have adequate resource available at this point of time. They don't have necessary court halls. They don't have necessary trained judges to handle so many cases today. And as a result, many cases are being listed and deferred. Each time you will end up in answering the creditor saying that, look here, next month, this date it is scheduled, within 15 days from that the new investor will put in the money and you will get your share. And that date never happens. It goes on postponing, and very difficult to handle the creditors basically. That part is very important because it comes on the head of the insolvency professionals, because they need to handle this as well. Maybe handling the legal part and the judicial, the procedures under the IBC, maybe one part of it, but the more challenging is the real life scenario when it comes to handling the unsatisfied creditor, and at the same time keep the company operations going on. That's also very critical. If you stop the company's operation, the valuation drops. So that also needs to be maintained. To maintain that, you need all these suppliers to continuously supply, though the earlier payment is not paid. That is the real life scenario which people will end up in facing also. So just wanted to add some of these things. I've been experiencing this every day, So nice session, sir. Maybe you need one full day session to talk more about the IBC, and this is yet another untapped opportunity for many chartered accountants. And yes, there is something which is challenging to do, but hardly few chartered accountants are actually practicing in the IBC category cases. And if you go to NCLT today, you can see many lawyers and few company secretaries and no chartered accountants. But we are equally eligible and qualified to render services there as well. You can directly appear before the NCLAT at your own. But how many of us are really using that opportunity is still a question. Therefore, we thought let us have as many workshops and sessions as possible to equip at least some 10, 20, 50 chartered accountants to come forward and start practicing in the NCLAT and NCLT and IBC basically in that area. So thank you very much for your active participation. I request Punarvas Jayakumar to come forward and present a memento to our speaker. Thank you very much, sir. Friends, thank you very much for your active participation. Without your support, none of our programs will be successful. So many thanks to you. This was, we would like to conclude today's session. Good night.